Talk about some of the ramifications of Comey's testimony that are still going on today as people are kind of sorting through it. You know, the thing about Comey's testimony is it really brought out more than anything for me the disparity between the way Trump and his Justice Department is treated and the way Obama's Justice Department was treated, because Obama's Justice Department, it now seems clear from stuff that came out last week and stuff that Comey said, it now seems absolutely clear that this was a tremendously corrupt Chicago machine that Obama was running. And he really ran Washington, D.C. on the basis of Chicago machine politics. So here's, you remember that one of the things we learned is Comey said that Loretta Lynch, and we always called her the blandly corrupt Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, because she always had that bland way of explaining things to you like she was mommy when she was saying things that were just utterly corrupt, And so Comey sat down and he said that Loretta Lynch, the only time he ever took notes with anybody was just with Trump, because Trump was so bad, so evil, so dishonest. But Loretta Lynch called him in and told him during the Hillary Clinton campaign not to call the investigation into Hillary Clinton an investigation, to call it a matter. And listen to Louis Gohmert react to this. This is cut number 3. Louis Gohmert really understands why this is such a bad thing.
As a former prosecutor, judge, and Chief Justice, I can tell you credibility is always relevant. It's always material. And when Comey said he took a memo of what the president said because he was afraid of what he might do in the future, whereas you have the Attorney General herself basically telling him to lie. She knew it was a criminal investigation. The FBI is not allowed to look into matters. It's got to be an investigation. There's got to be a criminal probe that they're getting into. Otherwise, they have no business getting into fishing expeditions or fishing matters. So he totally ruined his own credibility, what was left of it. He did vast damage and raised big red flags and questions over Loretta Lynch's job as head of the Justice Department. She was using her official position to help the campaign of Hillary Clinton, and that didn't seem to bother him enough to do a memo.
On top of this, by the way, Comey revealed what to me was his own corruption by saying that he leaked his memos to the press. He leaked the memos to the press, hoping to get a special counsel appointed. And remember that I said when they appointed a special counsel, this was the biggest mistake they made, because the GOP panics when the press gets hysterical. And if we had just stayed calm, if people had just stayed calm, I was making jokes about it on the show, and people were calling me up and saying, how can you say be calm? How can you, why are you fronting for Donald Trump? And it had nothing to do with that. I just knew there was no there was no collusion. Now everybody admits there was no collusion. Comey himself says there was no investigation into Trump. There was no need for a special counsel. Now Comey has maneuvered this special counsel by leaking, and Newt Gingrich is the only guy. I mean, he's not the only guy who said it, but he really came out and said he sent out a tweet. Here's Chris Wallace and talking to Newt Gingrich, and Chris Wallace starts out by reading the tweet that Newt Gingrich put out, saying that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is now tainted, right? Because Robert Mueller is James Comey's friend. And now we know that the reason that he was appointed had a lot to do with this leaked memo. So it was all maneuvered by Comey, and he got his friend appointed. Here's Newt Gingrich reacting. Chris Wallace starts by reading his tweet.
Republicans need to focus on closing down independent counsel because it clearly isn't independent. What's your reasoning, and wouldn't that really look like an obstruction of justice?
Well, first of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump. They're including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in 2 major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I think that Comey himself, by his own testimony, tainted this particular process. You have a director of the FBI deliberately leaking in order to create a special counsel who we're now supposed to believe is going to be this neutral figure. I think that's just nonsense.
So you heard it here when they appointed this guy. I said the problem is he can't fire him because it does look like obstruction of justice, even though it's not. I mean, look, none of this is obstruction of justice. As you know, Trump can fire Comey any day. He can fire Comey any day he wants for whatever. He can fire him for chewing gum, for picking his toes in Poughkeepsie, whatever he wants. That's how he can fire him. So it's not obstructing justice. But now he's got this dogged investigator on his tail with a brief from Comey basically saying, get this guy for firing me. And that's essentially what happened. And he can't fire him. And it was a big, big mistake. And it's all about the press. Listen for a moment of accidental honesty from John King of CNN, okay, when he's reacting to the testimony about Loretta Lynch. Listen to what he says carefully.
Number of significant things. One, this won't get much attention because it's in the rearview mirror, but a pretty damning account from Jim Comey there about Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General in the Obama administration, and her handling of the Clinton email investigation. It won't get much attention, but that was pretty damning. Number two,
he said that Loretta Lynch told him, don't call it an investigation.
Call it a matter.
Call it a matter.
Right. Call it a matter. And he said he was confused by that and concerned by that.
So listen, this is the way the press always talks. It's not going to get much attention. Now translate that into honest. And it's, we are not going to pay attention to this. We are not going to pay attention to this. We're going to sweep this under the rug. A rare moment of honesty on CNN. Hey, I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, which means you, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, have to come on over to thedailywire.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe. You could watch the whole thing on the site right there. And you can be in the mailbag on Wednesday. If you subscribe and send in your questions, it's a lousy $8 a month. Come and do it.